Hi, this is Ken from Geek-Craft.com, and we're here to talk about Spires. This is the first impressions. This is the first impressions. So this is not going to go smoothly. We all know this already, but let's have fun with it. The basic idea for first impressions, for those of you who don't know, is when you put a game away, a lot of time you talk about the game. You talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, what made you play it, if you're going to play it again, strategies, things like that. And I figured, what better thing to do than offer that to other people? So what I did is I reached out to some other members from Punchboard Media and said, hey, let's all play Spires a few times and let's talk about the game and what we think about it. And then in a few weeks, we're going to come back with the final impressions, or the lasting impressions rather, and talk about what the game actually is at that point once we've played it more and, you know, really seen all it has to offer. So from my left to my right that I see, we're going to start with Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle Bach. I'm part of the Draft Mechanic podcast and played Spires, I want to say like 3 and technically a half times if you count a solo game as a half.
No, I count solo as a full. It's its own
thing. Well,
thing.
then 4.
Well, fine. All right. And then we also have Eric Buscemi.
Danielle, you're an overachiever.
Well, we had a review that came out on Monday, so.
Fair. Yeah, Eric Buscemi. I am the Cardboard Horde. I write reviews there, and I also am on the What Did You Play This Week podcast and the Cubist podcast occasionally. And I played the game twice, once at 2 players and once at 3 players.
Okay. And finally, we have Adrian.
Hey,
go ahead.
So I'm Adrian from the Mile High Game Guys, and I've played Spires, I believe now 3 times, all times at 4, and then I taught it one time where it was a full 4-player game, and so I just kind of sat to the side and refereed it. So
yeah, and that's also helpful. So I've played it once, and I have only played it solo because a lot of my demo nights have just been crazy busy lately. But so I think the first thing we need to address, and I think, I don't remember who it was that brought this up, but good Lord Giant Purple Castle.
It's fantastic.
It's
completely
big.
Unnecessary, but I love it.
Yeah, it is big.
Compared to the size of a card, it's huge.
I have a feeling they were just trying to fill up the rest of the room in the box, and they're like, we need something to indicate who draws cards first.
Yeah.
So let's just fill the rest of the box.
Yeah, let's put something on the table that you'll see from a mile away.
But why not make it smaller or make it another card, and then the game goes in a double deck box?
Because you could easily just use the hey, I won card, and then just be fine.
It still might fit on the top of the deck in a double deck box. There's a little bit of space in the lid usually.
Yeah, I mean, granted, this is not nearly as an egregious example of a wasted box size as Go Nuts for Donuts, which I just got, which was ridiculous, but
fair. So I did actually make some notes about things to.
For anyone curious, this is how the box is laid out. So
yes.
Not so bad.
Thank you, Eric. So the first thing is, what drew you in to actually try this game? So for me, I know the developer I know the designer because TC Petty is a good friend of mine. He's a great guy. He's a lot of fun. I like a lot of his other stuff. I know the publisher because I know Nevermore Games. I know Brian, very good friend of mine. But I like the trick-taking kind of games. I like the set collection kind of games, and I like that it had solo rules. So I was like, yeah, I'm kind of on board with giving that a shot.
What drew me to it was 2 things. One, I really like the minimalist artwork that you can see. Mm-hmm. I love these little castle pictures. I think they're really cool. And I like that it has a trick-taking mechanism, but it's not it's not a trick-taking game. I would counter. It's that it has a trick-taking mechanism for
That's fair.
when there is a battle, a card battle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that works better.
So maybe it's trick-taking adjacent or whatever you want to call it. But I like that it's there, but it's just a little piece of it. It's not just another trick-taking game, because I'm not sure we need another pure trick-taking game.
That's fair.
Although the Fox and the Forest proved me wrong, so what do I know?
Well, no, Fox and Forest is fantastic, but Danielle, what drew you in about it?
Well, I honestly, other than Fox and the Forest, which you're right, is obviously fantastic, but it was another game that did something interesting with the trick-taking game. We had played a couple of trick-taking games recently, and they were just bad. And I looked at this, and it seemed like it had the potential to not only be that kind of game that you can play with a group of friends, and maybe it's the end of a game night and you're chatting about stuff that's happened, you're wrapping up talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but you can still play the game, but there's a game there. But it also looked like a trick-taking game that might not be awful. So that was appealing.
Yeah.
It was pretty similar for me. The group of people I regularly play games with, we all kind of really enjoy trick-taking games. We play a lot of them. And so when I heard trick-taking, I was like, all right, cool, sign me up. And then tableau building's another mechanic I kind of like. And the sort of action selection that ends up being in it, I didn't know that was in it when I signed up to play it, but after playing it, I really like that part of it too.
Yeah. No, there's some very clever little touches, I think, in this game. And I do agree with what Eric said about the art. I know Brian actually did all of the castle art himself, and I think it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks real good.
Yeah, you just use the word clever, and I think that's a good word to describe the game overall. I think it's a clever game.
Yeah, I think that works. So obviously we talked about the art. Component-wise, it's a bunch of cards and a giant purple castle. It's the components are just fine. I don't think there's any issue with it. I see Eric's point about getting this into a deck box, but
I think the cards shuffle real nice.
Oh no,
They're
very nice.
I'll give you another opinion on the purple player marker is when we sat down the first time and started playing. Obviously you bring this big purple thing out and you give it to someone, and then it's like, okay, what does it mean? It must mean being the first player must be important because there's this giant reminder, and we spent 5 minutes trying to figure it out. And there's like one edge case at the end of the game where it matters for a second.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I was like, that can't be it. They wouldn't have put this giant thing in there just for that, but they did.
Yeah, no, Brian would do exactly that because that's how he works. I want to say Dark Dealings has a very similar sized giant chunky piece as well. So it's just something he does, something he gets a kick out of.
Fair enough.
It works.
While we're on components, I don't know if this is sort of art, sort of components. This is my only other gripe with the game is I had trouble, again, the first game here. I'm just going to hold these cards up. Now, one of these is a green card and one of these is a red card.
Yes.
But you're going to notice one of them has a red corner and one of them has a green corner. But those indicate something else, but they really confused everyone at first.
And I can certainly see that. It didn't get me because it's not just in reading through the rules, it was, all right, here's the corner so you can easily reference it, and here's the icon you care about.
Yeah, no, I'm and again, once I got used to the game, it wasn't a long-lasting problem. It was just something.
Right.
One of the players I was with was like, I was like, why would you pick that card? Now it's the fourth building on your black towers, and he's like, no, it's not. It's red. And I'm like, oh boy.
Right. No,
and now he's mad.
Yeah. No, I think that's a completely valid point. I think had they gone with other colors, it would have been a nice touch. But it is what it is.
Minor quibble.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fine. The other thing I will say is the reference cards do, I believe. No, the difference cards don't say. There are some cards that actually have the rankings.
I think your market cards each have
your
Yes.
market selection cards.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So
It's also in the back of the rule book if you're playing solo.
yes. But I think that also helps things. So I think my next question is, so I've played solo, Danielle's played solo. So what did you think of it solo?
It felt less like the actual game and more like an interesting way to play solitaire to me.
Yeah,
Like just like standard solitaire, because you're getting rid of so many of the cards. Because in the solo game, you clear all the markets after each round instead of leaving them like you do in a multiplayer game. It felt like you could cycle through the deck a lot more quickly, and you were more making individual decisions than making sort of a grand strategy like you have to in the multiplayer game.
Right, and I think that's fair. I know Brian and I had talked about how the solo game wasn't the regular game; it was its own kind of thing. That being said, I'm happy to play this again solo. I think it was interesting.
So it's different, but it's a thing worth exploring.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's very. I think it's a well done take on it.
I want to add, I haven't played it solo, but I was flipping through the cards. I love the flavor text on the solo scoring.
Yes.
It's the best.
So the story, the theme behind Spires is that in here or Spires, players are honoring the royal family's decree to adorn the kingdom with beautiful spires. The only caveat, don't build any towers taller than the royal palace. As players aim to fill their tableaus with spires of each type, they must be careful not to finish the game with more than 3 of any one suit. Spires exceeding 3 cards will become penalty to a player's final score. Competing markets and valuable symbols force players to take cards they don't want, and more. So if you're playing solo, you're obviously the only builder. But at worst, the king is very displeased. You are beheaded. You are dead now. In case you weren't aware that beheading killed you. And if you manage to score more than 155 points, and I agree, this is fantastic, you're immediately thrown into jail for cheating. No one is more perfect than your lordship. It would be best for you to remember that.
And every single one has something about how the king is displeased, no matter what you score.
Yes.
I thought that was a nice thematic touch.
Yeah, I thought it was cute. I think the game I played, I got the king is displeased. However, during his appraisal, for one brief moment, a smile lifts the corner of his lips. The entire court notices this and erupts with applause. Like, it's just so very like over the top. I thought it was a really nice little touch. That being said, what did you think of the rules overall?
Are we still on solo or just in general?
In general, it's 18 pages, so it's not terribly long, and it's this, kind of smallish book, so it's not too bad in terms of length.
The print's pretty big too, right?
Yeah, the print's actually pretty decent, and there are lots and lots of visual examples, which I thought actually really helped make things very, very clear.
Yeah, I would agree. The illustrations were definitely huge for teaching the game. Especially like just teaching it to other players. Like after you've read through it and you know the rules, you can just kind of point to things and be like, see, like, so in this situation, they all play these cards and this is how it works.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I said I read the rule book because I watched TC Petty's YouTube video of how to play.
Yeah. And
which is very good, by the way.
Right. And it's great that that's another option, because I know some people just, part of why I do as many demos as I do is because some people don't enjoy reading rulebooks and figuring out a game. If you can learn it from video, that's fine.
Yeah, I did reference the rulebook and I had no problems with it. So I think the rulebook is fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I think the example's really nice. I think the font's, decently sized. I really don't have an issue with what's in here.
I did find one thing that is missing from the rules in the solo gameplay. If the top deck is a scroll, but if you go on PGG, it's already answered in the forums, and it's like the first thing that comes up if you search for solo. So there is one thing that it found missing, and apparently it was supposed to be on the solo rules card, but it got cut.
Okay. Well, still, that's not bad.
No.
When everything is said and done. The one thing is, as I was reading through, like, I found like you could have worded that slightly differently. There shouldn't be a comma there. There should be a comma there, but it's nitpicking. I read through the rulebook once and it was like, yep, I got it. I think it works pretty decently.
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Yep. I definitely agree.
Yeah. So what caught you guys in terms of play? Like what caused you to stop and have to reference the rulebook, if anything? What was confusing?
I know when we were playing multiplayer games, we were playing with the undercut rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that threw a couple of our players in the very beginning. The idea that if you play on suit, that trumps off suit, but if you play the suit below on suit, it trumps on suit, which I love.
Yes.
I think it's fabulous. But it did take a couple of rounds for everybody to be like, okay, why does that person win this battle? I played on suit. Well, yeah, you played on suit, but this person played the suit below you. And It was a little bit tricky, but I think it really makes the game, so it was worth it.
Yeah. So for those who aren't aware, there is undercut advanced play, which you're supposed to use once players are familiar with the game, where there is effectively a trump for any given card to take. But if you go with the suit that is lower, because the purple stairs are 1 to 12, the yellow suns are 13 to 24. Each group is 12 cards. If you go one symbol less, you undercut, and therefore you beat the people who played trump. But only if trump was played.
It's something that helps value the lower cards more after everyone has a feel for the game.
Yes.
Which is nice. Because
Yes.
I'm sure that balances the game, but I only played it twice. We didn't try any of the variants.
Well, no,
but I could definitely see, because you could see the higher cards were more powerful when we played.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Adrian, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah. The only thing that kind of stopped us up a little bit the first time we played was when you take a scroll card, the discard scroll cards, whether you had to do it immediately or whether you could wait and do it. And then if you could wait and do it, could you wait until like the very end when the game was done and then play them? And so we had to reference the rules there a couple times, trying to make sure we were playing those scroll cards correctly.
That's fair. And for those who are confused, what is the actual ruling there? Because
they never go in your hand.
Yeah, they never go in your hand.
If you
win them
on them
from the market, they go down in your tableau, and then you can use them at a later time.
Yeah. So there are scroll cards, and as you can see, you do not put these into your hand. They don't go, you change up the cards that are in your hand relatively frequently, but the scroll cards never get there because they sit in front of you, and sometimes they're worth points. Sometimes they let you discard cards, which can be very powerful because, as the rules referenced, if you build a spire that's too tall, you don't get any points for it. In fact, you lose points. But no, I think there are a couple minor sticking points, but I think they're very minor. I think the rule book's well written and the game plays fairly smoothly.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So after playing the few times that we have, what do you think of the game?
I really like it. I'm not very good at it. I still haven't quite figured out the right balance of getting rid of cards that I have too many of versus getting cards that I don't have enough of. And so I end up with like a couple spires that are 1 or 2 cards, and then like 3 spires that are like 4 cards. So I'm still trying to kind of mess that. I like how much you have to kind of read your opponents and pay attention to what they're doing, so that when you're deciding which market to compete for, you can look around and see like, okay, this is a yellow card and everybody else is at 3 on their yellow spires. Nobody's probably going to go for this one, so I'm going to get it. That
market contention. Yeah. And I think that you nailed it on the head. Even if you're not doing well, you want to play it again.
Oh yeah.
I have not won either game that I played, and I had this tendency in the beginning of the games, just like in a normal trick taking or tableau building game, I was trying to get things. And then halfway through the game, when I saw there was still half a deck of cards left and I had almost 3 of everything, I was like, oh, that was a mistake. Because then the second half, you're trying not to get anything at all, which is a lot harder when you have to like pace yourself. And this is what's cool about this is the strategy doesn't immediately reveal itself. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. So I'm excited to play it more. One note I'll make is, having played it at 2 and 3, when you played at 2, you put out 2 markets. When you played at 3 or 4, you put out 3 markets. So playing at 2 and 3, there was always an option where everyone would take their own thing and there would be no conflict.
A chance of that, yeah.
And in 2 players, it happened a fair amount. I really would like to try the game at 4, where no matter what, there's always going to be a conflict. I think that would add something to the game. And Adrian, you said you only played it at 4. What do you think about my supposition?
Yeah, you're definitely right. There's a lot. It helps that there is always that little bit of conflict, and then it adds knowing that there's going to be some conflict kind of changes a little bit how you might play too, because somebody's going to be battling, and that means that somebody is going to be taking 3 cards, at least 3 cards every time, which really builds up the tableaus a lot quicker.
So do you want to explain how that kind of works with the taking of cards?
Yeah. So if you're, you have your 3 markets out there, and if 2 players decide to compete for the same market, they pick a card from their hand, and then they both reveal simultaneously. And if you played on suit, you trump and you win. Otherwise, it's the highest card wins, unless you play with that undercut variant that we were talking about earlier. And then you take all 3 cards, and they all 3 go in your tableau, which can kind of get tricky with where you'd want to bid on something. Like, say you have 1 yellow card already in your tableau and another yellow card's out there. Well, you want to bid on it, but if you bid yellow, like if your card that you play is a yellow one to be on trump, and the other player plays yellow, if you win, you're getting 3 yellows to go onto your 1 yellow.
Yeah,
and that's not what you wanted at all.
Yeah, and you just busted.
Yeah. Went from 5 points to -4 points, which is a not great swing.
Yeah. And I think similar to that is I know you want this card, and I know that you're sitting at 3 purple because purple's the lowest. I'm going to bid for that card with no intent of taking it, simply to say, here's a purple card, take it, because you don't get a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun interaction. Sorry, Danielle.
No problem. I think you have to be willing to do that in this game. Every time we've started with a new group, I've said, we're going to play until this deck is empty. And everybody's always like, no, we're not going to be able to have anything that's less than 3. I was like, you will. You're just going to have to really work for it. And you have to be willing to absolutely shaft another player with cards that you do not want and they do not want.
Right.
In order to be able to get any good points out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a real potential for, the conundrum from The Princess Bride. I want that card, but if I go after that card, someone might give me extra cards, and I know I don't want those extra cards. So maybe if I go for this other card, but if I go for that other card and I can't drink the wine in front of me, kind of thing.
And he knows that I know that he knows.
Yes.
Right.
But no, I think it's certainly a game that I want to try to get to the table with the game group, and I want to see it at 2 and see it at 3, see it at 4. I do like the idea of the 4 where there's always that contention and always that potential to, here you go, I got you a present, but I don't want it. Yeah, but it's a present, so take it. That seems to be kind of how it's made.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of potential there.
Definitely agree. I'm interested in trying it at 2 and 3 and probably solo, just because occasionally I'll throw down something that's light and easy like that. Like I play regular solitaire with a 52 card deck occasionally. So if this is an interesting kind of solitaire type thing, then I'd be interested in that. But I think that the vast majority of my plays are going to continue to be at 4. I think it just plays really well. I think that having less markets, the number of players, forcing that conflict, all that kind of stuff we were just talking about really works well for this game. And for the game group I play with, we really like that additional level of conflict and kind of screwing each other by pushing cards off here and there.
Right. But that being said, the box says 25 minutes. I'm betting that you're more close to finishing in 20.
That sounds about right. 15 to 20. It plays pretty quick.
Yeah.
I know
It's a quick game, despite there being a fair number of cards.
Yeah, that was the first time we were playing it. I hadn't really had a chance to. I'd skimmed the rules, but so we were sitting down and reading through the rules as we played. And yeah, we set out that deck, and I was like, all right, the game ends when the deck's done. Everybody's like, what? And it plays in 20 minutes? No way! Like that's not going to happen. But then once you get playing, like turns just go quick. You're picking your markets real quick. Everybody reveals them. If they're wherever the battle is, you pick another card and reveal them, and you just resolve it, and then boom, you're on to the next hand.
Yeah,
and you're doing 5 cards at least a hand, because everybody who plays a card draws a new one, and then any markets that got used up get refilled, and that's a minimum of 5 cards every time that's coming out of the deck back into the game. Yeah. So that deck goes by quick.
Yeah. So I mean, as we said, in comparison to the giant purple castle, there are a fair number of cards in this game. But
it does scale. There are cards you take out when 3 and 2. Just to be clear, and those are marked very nicely too. By the way, I found that very easy to sort.
So, because I happen to have it here, if you notice in that corner, it might not be easy to see. There are 3 tiny little black dots, and what that means is you only use that with 3 or more players. And there's obviously cards that have 4 dots for if you only use it for 4 players. It's one of those. It's in the little corner, and you don't notice it until you're looking to split the deck out for 3 players, and then it's like, oh, it's right there, and then you just fly through the deck. So, no, I think overall, I'm really happy I got it. I think it's a clever, like you said, I think clever is really the word for it, because it's, I want that card, but I don't want the consequences that are going to come with the extra cards. I need to play the cards that I have, but I also have to play the opponents. I have to hope that this comes up sooner than later. There's a fair bit of thinking to it.
Now, this is going to be, I know it just hit retail. It's going to be available at Gen Con, right?
Yeah, so at Gen Con, Nevermore Games will not be there. However, they are selling it at the Greater Than Games booth. So you can go to booth 1343, and you can pick it up. I believe retail is $20, and I think it's a lot of game for that $20. And if you want to try it, or if they happen to sell out and you want to try it anyway, you can demo it in room 134. So yeah, you can definitely, if you're going to Gen Con, you can get it there. The other benefit, or the other nice thing is, I'm in talks with Brian, and we're going to give a copy away. So if you go to Geek-Craft.com, geek-craft.com, the main entry right now is the first impression for Spires. Talk about first impressions a little bit, and there's the entry there. We're going to end that tomorrow, which is the 3rd of August, and we'll ship that copy off to someone who, doesn't have it yet.
And what do they have to do exactly?
So there's a couple different ways to enter. It's all around social media. So there's a tweet option, so you can broadcast out that this is out there. But it's following me on Twitter, following me on Facebook, following me on Instagram, and subscribing to my YouTube.
All right.
It's relatively simple.
Oh, sounds easy enough.
So we will see each other in a few weeks and talk about this after we've all become Spires experts.
Yes.
I don't know if that'll happen, but I'll still talk about it.
We can all try.
Well, yeah, you become more experienced with it.
If anyone's won a game by then.
Hey, I won my game because I only played solo.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you guys for joining, and thank everybody for watching. And
thanks
we'll
for
see
setting
you
this up, Ken.
No, and if anyone out there has any other game ideas, they don't have to be new games. They can be older games that just never hit the table for some of us, or it's been so long that they might as well be new. I think that this is a fun idea. I think you guys had fun tonight, right?
Yeah,
this is nice.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah, and I I think it, other people will be able to watch this and get a real feel for what Spires is and what we like and how it is. So we'll come back in a few weeks and we'll talk about, if it's a long lasting game and how the game changes with more plays. So we will see you then.
Sounds like a plan.
And bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.